guys, welcome back to the channel. In the last episode you seen where I flipped a Del Sol for some CRX money. Not a lot's really happened with the CRX. As you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but she's not too happy with me. The first thing I want to do is take this transmission off. In particular, I'm talking about this CRV transmission, all-wheel drive. I don't know if you guys can see it, but right here is the speed sensor. So I was trying to get it out and I ended up damaging it pretty bad. I beat the whole top of it off. And if you see here, you can just pull it straight out. There's supposed to be a gear on the end of there. So what I need to do is take that transmission off of there and find that little gear that was supposed to be on the end of it. It should just be like a little plastic gear. Before I tear into the transmission and start messing with its little delicacies, I'd really like to get everything cleaned up. There's just dirt caked up in there, dirt and leaves. So yeah, I want to get rid of all the dirt and grime and stuff like that so that I don't kind of cross-contaminate everything. What I'm going to do first is actually whip out my pressure washer and trying to get some of this stuff cleaned up. Get all this stuff pulled out and kind of organized. I need to sort through all this stuff. I went through a pretty big move, so this is the aftermath of that. So I'll pull all this stuff out of here, go ahead and get it sorted out. That way I can pressure wash the inside of the CRX. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get this place cleaned up and organized so that we can finally get to work. Heck yeah, man. Skylar went ahead and pulled this clutch off for me. We went ahead and got the pressure plate off. Competition clutch. And got our pressure plate here. Alright, so we'll go ahead and try to get these flywheel bolts off. Here's a crack. Yep. Woo! Look at that, yeah. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and do this now. And that worked out pretty good. Just a 10mm wrench and some random bolt that just happened to fit in this hole right here. Bam, bam. I kind of wallered it out. I hope I don't need that for anything. Put that in there. And this. Alrighty guys, so as you can see, we've been scrubbing away at these things for hours. I mean, we've had about as much as we can take, and to be honest with you guys, I feel like that's about as clean as they're gonna get just by hand. So, here's what I want to try to do. I picked up this little bed liner spray gun, and I'm hoping that I can use it like a sandblaster. And then what I want to do is tape it off and see if I can throw some paint at this thing. I'm going to try to go with this high temp ceramic coat paint as my base coat, kind of like a primer. And then I'm going to try to go over the top of that with this acrylic enamel in the gloss white. So anyways, yeah, I'm just going to try to see if I can find some sand in a little bottle and see if I can rig myself up a little sandblasting machine. Change of plans. That did not work out at all. I mean, so just imagine me spraying that thing and nothing happening. So yeah, it just kept on getting clogged over and over and over. Every time it would get clogged, I would just kind of like pull it out and let it just like drain out the bottom and then start trying to sandblast again, which, to be honest, I couldn't even tell you where it was that I tried to hit it at. Which leads me to my next problem. I think my air compressor did not have enough pressure to actually do the job. So here's my plan. I got two air compressors now. What I'm going to try to do is tee them together with this 1/4-inch fitting. And then so I'll be going from that 3/8 to this 1/2-inch hose, which is a lot bigger than what you would normally get with like a 1/4-inch fitting. It is like massive. And then I've got this high flow coupler. Hopefully that'll get the amount of flow that we need. With both of the air compressors, it should be able to keep up the pressure without dropping the pressure every time I hit the button. So let's see what happens. I'm all geared up. Got my fittings all fitted. Just did a little bit of a leak down test. It's all pressurized right now, and I don't hear anything, so I think we're good to go. Oh yeah, look at that. I'd say it's working. What's up guys? So this is actually working out really well. I don't know if you can tell so far, but it's actually coming along really nicely. I'm gonna go ahead and try to knock out some more of this real quick. As you can see, I'm a little bit more geared out. Shit's gotten a little bit more serious. So that stuff was getting all up in my ears, my nose, my eyes. I had to literally pick pieces of sand out from underneath my eyelids. It was just like stuck to my eyeballs, and man, it was bad. Alright, so check it out. Alright guys, so now that I got myself kind of cleaned up, I went ahead and got the motor and transmission cleaned up with this purple power, and I hit it with this aluminum brightener. I wanted to kind of go over exactly how it was that I was able to get these results. So the major part that I left out was that I ended up going and getting a bigger air compressor. Now this is really the star of the show right here. If I didn't go and pick this guy up, I wouldn't have been able to get these kind of results. Also, on my air compressor, it wouldn't go past like 120 psi, so what I ended up doing was opening up this little box right here. There's just like one screw on the side, so I open up that box and there's two adjustment screws that you can adjust in or out. So pretty much I just cranked them all the way in, turned it all the way up, would keep it from cutting off at 120 psi. It would just keep on climbing. The downside to that is there's this little valve right here. It's like a pressure, overpressure valve, or a safety valve or something like that. So if you read on there, it says max 151. It did make it kind of difficult just trying to stay right on that borderline of 150 psi. To whereas this one here says max 190. So this one has a 190 psi valve on it, which would allow this one to just keep on pumping after this one had already blown the valve. So every time this one would blow the valve, I'd just have to run in there and push it back in, which would kind of make things a little bit more difficult, just trying to constantly run back and forth and make sure I wasn't getting over 150 psi, because every time it would blow the valve, it would just drop it down to like 120 instantly. And so yeah, here's the T-fitting that I ended up making for it. One side would just go straight in right here, and then this would be connected to my smaller air compressor. This worked out great. It fed pretty well. I think honestly it was just made for more air pressure, more than 150 psi, but 150 seemed to be about its minimum operating pressure. The problem is I wasn't able to just hold the trigger down and just make passes back and forth. I kind of had to just like just kind of back and forth like that, but it ended up working out pretty good. Also the media. So as far as the media, my main media was this pool filter sand, which worked out really well. It's a nice coarse material, definitely really heavy duty stuff. I don't know. Obviously don't know a whole lot about sandblasting or anything, but this is what worked out for me. And then what I would do is I would mix in a little bit of this black diamond abrasive. Now this is actually a sandblasting abrasive right here, but in my opinion, this was a little bit too heavy duty. I believe they have like a coarse, a medium, and maybe a fine, but I believe this is their most coarse, and the pellets are pretty large. So either way, I ended up going with like a salt and pepper mix on that, so a little bit more of the pool filter sand versus just a little bit of this black diamond. So yeah, these are the products that I ended up using to achieve these results. Now I did notice with the aluminum brightener that it did not like the steel. The steel did not like the aluminum brightener. If you notice, everything that is made out of steel is just got this fine haze of like a surface rust on it. It's just like a real fine coating of surface rust over everything that was steel. That's fine. That's fine. It's just surface rust. Alright, so now that I got everything cleaned up, I went ahead and just taped everything off kind of how I want it to be. Anywhere where I don't want paint to be, I went ahead and threw a little bit of tape. But yeah, man, everything should be pretty much ready to throw some paint. I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with this high heat ceramic coating. That'll be like my first coat. This is gonna be kind of like my base coat, or almost like my primer, I guess you could say. I figure with the high heat capability of it, it might make a good primer, So we'll see how that works out. Got a good first coat there. Go ahead and hit the transmission as well, I guess. Alright, let's see if I got enough to hit this motor with. Sweet. Alright, dude, that looks pretty freaking good. A lot of people would probably just prefer to leave it like that, but honestly, I think it's gonna look freaking fire once I get the black, or once I get the white on there. What do you guys think? You think this is gonna look good? What would y'all do? Would y'all leave it black like this? I think it looks like charcoal, man. But no, I think it's gonna look really good. And bam! Look at that, guys. What do y'all think? Huh? I think it looks freaking good. Alright, let's get this transmission thrown up on the table. I'm super interested to see if that gear is going to work. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Everybody remember how that went together? Alright, let's get to what we came here for. Oh, yes. Ooh. Anybody ever had that much trouble getting the speed sensor out? My plan is to go ahead and try to remove this gear and replace it with this gear. I ran down to O'Reilly's and picked up some of this JB Weld high heat. It's a heat resistant epoxy. So I went ahead and I stripped the gear off of this shaft, and I just used like a socket and a hammer. I was able to get this gear off of the shaft, the original CRX speed sensor gear. And the reason why I'm using this is because I'm still going to be using the original CRX dash, and pretty much the only way to get the speed signal to the CRX dash is through the cable that connects to this spot right here. And it's like an actual cable that twists inside of a sleeve, and it's spun by this gear. You know, my plan was to go ahead and try to use the gear off of the CRV speed sensor. So that's still pretty much the plan. Since I got this gear off, now I'm able to see exactly how I'm going to get this gear on. So I went ahead and I drilled out the inside as straight as I possibly could. Unfortunately, it's not perfect, but I think it's going to work. I already put this on here, and you can see where inside the shaft here it's got like these holes drilled all the way through it, 2 holes drilled all the way through. I guess whenever they manufactured this, they actually extruded the plastic onto the shaft with the holes in there so that the plastic would go all the way through, and that's what actually locks the gear onto the shaft. I got a couple of ideas. I think what I'm going to actually do is drill out and remove the plastic out of there, and I'm going to use this high heat JB Weld epoxy, use that to fill in this little dish right here. There's like an empty spot where it's not actually touching the shaft. So if you can see down in there, there's like a little space where I can hopefully pour some epoxy and You can see where that black spot is, where the hole is going to be through the shaft. I'm hoping that that epoxy will drain through that hole, or I can smash it, force it to go down into that hole. And there's also 2 little notches, which I believe will be perfect, because if that epoxy forms around those notches and goes down into that hole, I think it'll lock perfectly. Check it out. That should be a lot better. Alright, so I got everything all cleaned up. So now I'm gonna go ahead and try to use my epoxy and see if I can't get these 2 things as one. And they are one. Got the gear on the shaft and I've got the epoxy in there. It's set up really good. It's nice and hard. I'll let it bake out in the sun for a while. And yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. So yeah, that's gonna go ahead and wrap it up for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. In the next video, we'll go ahead and throw this together, make sure everything works good. And I also need to throw this speed sensor in. It's the speed sensor that actually sends the signal to the ECU. And I've got a little surprise for you guys, so hope you stick around and we'll see you in the next video.